Have you ever wondered what you'd do if your values were put to the test? Not tomorrow, not someday, but right now. Adrian and Marcus thought they were just catching a late-night train. But when temptation, danger, and fear stepped into their carriage, they discovered the truth. Integrity isn't just a word, it's a choice. This is the story of the last train home and the night that would change them forever. The air was sharp, the kind of cold that stung your lungs when you breathed too deep. The old station groaned with age, cracked bricks, rusty lamps, the faint hiss of steam curling from the iron beast waiting on the tracks. The last train of the night. The last train home. Adrian stood tall, his shoulders squared against the wind. His jacket was worn, the kind of leather that told 100 stories, but his stance was unshaken. Beside him, Marcus shifted restlessly, his eyes darting toward the darkness beyond the tracks. He was younger, less hardened, the kind who still believed the world might give second chances if you asked politely. Adrian placed a steady hand on his brother's shoulder. "Stay close," he said, his voice low, calm. "No matter what happens tonight, don't forget who you are. The world can take everything from you, money, pride, even your freedom. But it can't take your word. Keep your word and you keep yourself." Marcus looked up at him, uncertain. "You make it sound like we're going into battle." Adrian's lips pulled into the faintest smile. Sometimes life doesn't announce its wars. Sometimes they just happen, and when they do, you'll want to know you stood for something. The whistle shrieked, long and low. The train, black steel and steam, exhaled like a beast about to wake. Passengers shuffled onto the platform, clutching bags, clutching each other, clutching secrets. Some ran, some limped, some lingered as if deciding whether leaving was braver than staying. Marcus shoved his hands into his pockets, forcing a grin. "Just a train ride, right?" "Just a train ride," Adrian repeated. But deep in his eyes, there was something Marcus couldn't name, a heaviness, like a man who already knew the weight of choices yet to come. The brothers stepped onto the platform together. The doors opened with a groan, spilling warm yellow light into the cold night. And as they crossed the threshold, neither of them could have guessed that this wasn't just a ride. It was a test. The last train home wasn't about where it ended. It was about who they would be when it did. The carriage smelled of old wood and coal smoke. Golden lamps flickered against polished panels, throwing shadows that stretched long across the seats. The rhythm of the train started slow and steady, a heartbeat pulling them away from the station and into the night. Adrian guided Marcus down the narrow aisle, his eyes flicking from face to face. Every passenger told a story without saying a word. A mother cradling her child, rocking gently as if her arms were stronger than the world outside. A soldier slumped in his seat, eyes hollow, medals pinned like ghosts on his chest. A merchant clutching a black briefcase tight enough to crack the leather. Marcus slid into a seat by the window, staring out as the city lights blurred into streaks. "Feels like the kind of place where everyone's hiding something," he muttered. Adrian didn't disagree. He sat across from him, posture calm but watchful. That's the thing about trains. They put strangers in a box and shake it until truths rattle loose. The merchant noticed Marcus watching. He smiled, the kind of smile that was too polished, too eager. Sliding closer, he lowered his voice. "You're young, new to the world, I can tell." He tapped the briefcase with his knuckles. "Sometimes opportunity comes once and it comes fast. You have to grab it before someone else does." Marcus frowned. "What kind of opportunity?" The merchant cracked the case just enough to show gold coins stacked inside, glinting under the carriage light. He leaned in, whispering, "Information. Loyalty. A little favor here, a little silence there. Nothing serious. And in return, this could all be yours." Marcus's throat went dry. The glow of gold was hypnotic. His eyes flicked to Adrian, who hadn't moved, but his gaze, steady, sharp, cut through the illusion. "Don't," Adrian said, voice firm but quiet. "Your price isn't gold, Marcus. Your price is your integrity. Lose that and you're worth less than the coins in his case." The merchant chuckled, masking the tension. Big words but empty pockets don't fill themselves. Adrian leaned forward, his stare locking the man in place. And pockets filled with poison don't stay full for long. The soldier stirred in his seat, eyes narrowing as if he'd heard too much. The mother clutched her child tighter. For a moment the carriage felt heavier, as though the train itself was listening. Marcus swallowed hard. He pushed his hands deeper into his pockets and looked away from the gold. For the first time, he understood what Adrian meant back on the platform. Some wars came without warning, and this was his first battle. Hours passed. The train clattered through empty fields and thick forests, its whistle echoing into the dark. Inside the carriage, the rhythm of the wheels lulled some passengers into uneasy sleep, but Adrian never closed his eyes. He sat steady, like a soldier on guard, while Marcus leaned against the window, drifting in and out of restless dreams. Then the sound changed, subtle at first. A metallic screech against the tracks, a shift in the speed, the train slowed, too soon, too sudden. Adrian straightened. "Marcus, wake up." Marcus rubbed his eyes, groggy. "What's wrong?" Before Adrian could answer, the lamps flickered. The train shuddered, groaned, then screeched to a halt in the middle of a dense, shadowy forest. The silence that followed was heavy, too heavy. Then came the thud, one on the roof, another at the far end of the carriage. Boots, more than one. The mother gasped, clutching her child. The soldier froze, his hands shaking, eyes trapped in some memory from long ago. The merchant gripped his briefcase tighter, sweat already beading on his forehead. And then they appeared. Men in masks, slipping through the doors with the confidence of wolves entering a pen of sheep. Their eyes gleamed under the lantern light, knives glinting, boots heavy on the floor. "All right, everyone," one barked, his voice rough like gravel. "Stay calm, stay quiet, and maybe you walk out with your pretty little head still attached." The bandits moved down the aisle, snatching bags, tearing jewelry from fingers, shaking down passengers. The merchant was quick to nod, quick to offer coins. Cowards always were. Marcus's heart pounded, his first instinct screaming at him to hide. But Adrian's hand gripped his wrist, grounding him. His brother's voice was steady, low, unflinching. "We don't run, not while people need us." Marcus whispered back, terrified. "Adrian, there are too many." "Brotherhood," Adrian cut him off, his eyes locked on the bandits closing in. "It means standing when it's easier to run. It means doing what's right, even when you're afraid." The leader of the bandits reached them, sneering at the two brothers. "Well, look at this. Heroes," he raised his knife. "Or just another pair of pockets to bleed dry." Adrian rose slowly to his feet, his frame filling the aisle. He didn't flinch, didn't bow. "Neither," he said calmly. "Just men who don't scare easy." Marcus swallowed hard. His knees shook. But when he looked at his brother standing tall, unmovable, something in him steadied. Fear didn't vanish, but courage grew big enough to stand beside it. And so together, shoulder to shoulder, they faced the wolves. Not with weapons, not with bribes, but with the kind of strength the bandits didn't expect, the strength of men unwilling to betray their word. For the first time, Marcus understood. Brotherhood wasn't just blood, it was choice. It was the moment you decided to stand, no matter what. The train pulled into the city just as the first edge of dawn brushed the sky. After the night's chaos, the fear, the shouting, the steel of knives flashing in lantern light, the quiet hum of the engine felt almost unreal. Smoke curled upward, soft against the pale blue morning, and the great iron beast hissed one last sigh as it slowed to a halt. Inside the carriage, the passengers stirred like survivors crawling out from under a storm. The mother still held her child close, but this time there was relief in her tears. The soldier finally stood, shoulders no longer caving under invisible weight. Even the merchant, his briefcase clutched but lighter than before, had no words, only shame sitting heavy in his eyes. Adrian and Marcus sat together in silence. No one thanked them, no one cheered, but the looks they received told the truth. Respect had been earned in a night that could have broken everyone. Marcus stared out the window at the city skyline rising in the distance, bathed in golden light. For the first time in his life, the world looked different. Not safer, not kinder, but clearer. He turned to Adrian, voice quiet but steady. "You were right," he said. "Gold fades, a word kept doesn't." Adrian leaned back, a faint smile pulling at his lips. "Now you know, that's all I ever wanted for you." As the train doors creaked open, passengers shuffled out, some limping, some clutching their belongings tighter, some with heads bowed lower than before. But Adrian and Marcus walked side by side, their steps matching, their shoulders squared. The sunrise stretched across the platform, painting them in fire and gold. The last train home hadn't been about distance. It hadn't been about escaping or arriving. It had been about the men they became along the way. And as they stepped into the morning light, Marcus understood something he never had before. Integrity wasn't a lesson you were told. It was a test you survived. And brotherhood wasn't just about blood. It was about the man who stood beside you when the world wanted you to fall. Later that morning, the brothers walked through the city streets, their steps quiet against the cobblestones. Life had already returned to its usual rhythm around them. Merchants shouting prices, carriages rolling by, children darting through alleyways chasing laughter. To the world, the night on the train was already gone, forgotten like smoke. But not for Marcus. He replayed every moment. The merchant's gold, the bandits' knives, the fear in his chest, and the way Adrian's voice had cut through it all like steel. And now, with the sunrise warm on his face, something in him had shifted. He slowed, tugging on Adrian's sleeve. "Why didn't you ever tell me what you'd been through before? The way you knew, it's like you'd lived it already." Adrian paused, studying his younger brother for a long moment. His eyes softened, though his voice stayed steady. "Because some things can't be taught, Marcus. They have to be lived. You don't truly know what you stand for until the world tries to take it from you." Marcus nodded slowly. The words sank deeper than he expected. For the first time, he didn't feel like the younger brother tagging along. He felt like a man walking beside another man, equal, not in age, but in the weight of what they carried together. The two of them reached a crossroads in the city, the noise of the crowd pressing around them. Adrian stopped, resting a hand on Marcus's shoulder one last time. "Remember this, Marcus. Integrity is the one thing no one can steal from you. They can threaten you, bribe you, or break everything around you, but if you hold to your word, you'll never be poor." Marcus didn't answer right away. He just looked at his brother, really looked, and for the first time in his life, he felt proud to share his name. As the city roared awake around them, the brothers moved forward together. Two figures in the morning light, forged stronger not by wealth or luck, but by the kind of bond the world couldn't shake. The last train home wasn't just a journey. It was a reminder that in the end, it's not what you own, but what you stand for, and who stands beside you when it matters most.